All right, and we are live. Hey everyone, this is Once Bitten here. This is episode 2 of the 2015 U.S. Masters list review. I am here with Sherry Parsley, the founder of the U.S. Masters, as well as with Raf. So I'm going to say hi real quick, everyone.
Hey guys.
Howdy. Howdy? Who says howdy? Anyway, hi.
So this is the blog that Raf has. I'm a big fan of it. I noticed, Raf, that when you did some list reviews recently, I think you were reviewing Australia or New Zealand, something going on down there.
Yeah, it would have been Australia. Yeah.
Yeah, and you and I, like, you would go through a list, and I would say, I hate that list. You'd be like, oh, I love this list. And vice versa. So, yeah. So we're going to try some screen sharing today because I think we need it. Another thing, this is the Wargamers USA website. Anybody interested in following the U.S. Masters, this is where all the conversations are going on. So that's wargamersusa.com. And I guess I should say that Raf's blog is at Raffaza. That's raffazza.blogspot.co.uk. So welcome to the show. We're doing another 8 matchups today. And Jerry, I will turn it over to you.
Yep. Hey guys. Yeah. Welcome to episode 2 for the U.S. Masters. Just to touch. Well, first of all, we have to say thanks to the U.S. Masters sponsor, which is Mercia Miniatures, based in UK. Mercia Miniatures provide a wide range of models, and they will be providing lots of free models and books and stuff like that for all the participants to the U.S. Masters and the staff, and even maybe our special media guests. Okay, so I'm imagining everyone is pretty familiar with the Swede system. Raf, I know on a couple of your blogs, and I follow you on Twitter, you were not the keenest on it. If you want to, well, and I also know you're a UK master. So give us your perspective on the Swede comp and how you think, what do you think the winning strategy is for comps in this range between 8 and 14 over a 6-game event? And from there, we'll just kind of go into some of the lists.
Yeah, sure, Jerry. I mean, I think saying that I'm not a fan of Swedish is a bit harsh, perhaps. The problem with it is that it can be broken, right? It's mathematical formulas involved. Some people are better at it. Some armies are better at it. And if you can combine players that are good at list writing under the scriptures of Swedish comp with the players that use armies or have access to armies that are traditionally undercomped in Sweden for whatever reason, you end up with things that, I guess, to the casual observer don't seem fair. So we've had a lot of that in the UK. We have 2 big events a year here on the Swedish comp, a teams event and a singles event. And we always, I guess, hope, because it's meant to hit the hard stuff, that you'll see some of the softer, wackier stuff to make up the Swedish comp scores. And some armies, I think this year, Demons, Lizards traditionally are undercomped under Swedish. Whether they're any good as an army anyway, that's a debate for itself. And Warriors, if you know how to design a list, they tend to be very good under the system. I think for the US Masters, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously you've got people flying in from everywhere, and everyone plays a different style of Warhammer. No one's going to like a system. Get a bunch of Scandinavians to write a compact and then play it out. Makes a lot of sense. So I like it for that, for breaching the gap. Everyone knows what it is, right? The Australians use that panel comp quite a lot, and some things that you don't necessarily know going into an event. And that I don't like. I like the fact that everyone gets, here's a pack. It's going to be version this, whatever it is. Do your worst. As for the strategy on how to succeed in a 6-game event, what does it say? 8 to 14, isn't it?
Yep.
I think in the modern day, it's harder to predict because of the increased character caps and stuff, exactly how it works. But until that happened, I think in the modern day Warhammer, it's harder to get outright smash lists than you used to in 7th. So going 4 and 8 to try to just go, okay, I'm going to have as filth as possible and just take people apart is actually really hard to do, because, as I mentioned, some lists are undercomped. So you'll get a standard tournament lizard list will fall somewhere between a 12 and a 14. So they shouldn't get 20-0'd by your 8-scoring warriors, whatever you do, as an example. So I would look to go somewhere between a 12 and a 14. Personally, as a challenge, I always like to try to reach the top end of the bracket. But you have to make the realization that the cool fact of getting a 14 minus the actually is it worth 100 points a game or whatever it is to just get something better. So I would aim between, probably a 13 is where I'd aim. And you never want to be massively on the back foot is the idea. So that if you're playing against equally skilled opponents, even though their army was slightly worse, but they had 3 comp points on you, you're massively on the back foot. So I think between a 12 and a 14 is where I'd go.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of that, and looking at the different armies available, we'll play a little game. What do you guys think are the most represented? There's officially, not counting the play-in list, there's 77 army lists that have been submitted for the U.S. Masters for 2015. What are your top, let's just say, top 2 or 3 most played armies this year? And we'll start with Raph.
Oh gosh, now it should be demons and warriors or probably dark elves. I'll go with warriors because everyone plays warriors. I'm not sure if demons are as popular over there as they are here though. Let's go with that. Chaos.
Oh, so Chaos would be the variety. And once bitten, what about you, bro?
My knee-jerk reaction is it's dark elves, high elves, and demons.
All right. Well, the most played armies this year, with 9 out of 77 armies, are the High Elves, followed by 8 with the Warriors, and then 7th, not 7th, but with 7 armies each, there's 2 unusual, rarely seen lists this high. It's Orcs and Goblins and Ogres. So, I don't know, maybe some people are having gotten Swede down, or maybe they're trying to outsmart the system. Putting the shoe on the other foot, there are some armies that are not being played as much, and there's one army that's not even here. What do you think are the lowest 3 played armies? And on top of that, or which army just didn't come to the big dance? And we'll go in reverse order this time. Once bitten?
Well, I think my guess is there's no Beastmen represented. I think Tomb Kings would be low, and the third one.
Third one you never guessed, but take a shot in the dark.
Chaos Dwarfs.
All right. Raph?
Gosh, there's probably not many Bretonnian players, even though they're good under the comp. I'd be surprised if there's many Tomb Kings. Probably no Beastmen, I'd have to agree. It could be something really random like Wood Elves, but I doubt it. But because they're good.
Right.
But,
Well, you guys were right. There were no Beastmen showed up. Funny enough, the Bretonnians and Chaos Dwarves are up there in numbers, and not just with a handful, but with 4 or more. The lowest played army is Vampires with 1, and that turned out to be the lowest comp in the event, 8.5, Walking Vampire List by Soldier Boy, Julian Lesage. The next lowest, believe it or not, is Empire with 2.
that's incredible.
Yeah. With Tomb Kings, who also have 2. So Bretonnians and Chaos Dwarves are up there with 4 and 5 each. Skaven are up there. Elves of every variety are between 5 and 6, just kind of like people expected. But just a little bit of a Masters trivia for everyone. When I saw that, I was like, I was kind of shocked with the presence of Empire. And to be honest with you, are vampires really that bad in Swede? I don't know. You know?
Well, they're not actually. They're not as good as some of the other ones. But we've got a team event coming up, beginning of next month, in a month or so, over here, and be working at some vampire lists, and you can get, rock paper to an extent, but you can get some good lists, I think. So I'm a bit surprised by that. I know Larry was thinking about it for a long time before he decided to go a different direction. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with Raph with his confusion about the Empire. I'm really surprised there's only two. Um, I'm glad, actually. Like, if I'm playing in the tournament, I'm glad because I think Empire can bring some nasty. I don't think they're a top tier army, but they can bring some good counters.
It's probably because they're really boring.
Well, once bitten, why are you so surprised when you had the option to take Empire in the plane and you took Brett's instead? What was behind that decision?
Because as badly as I've been playing, at least I've been playing with Brett's.
Oh, built-in excuse.
It's the one I have more experience with lately. Yeah. So I like Empire. I'm enjoying Empire more than Brett's just because you can build a wider variety of lists. But I have a lot more experience with Brett's lately, and overall.
No, it is very surprising. Empire are, I think, very, very good, and I'd rate them up there in probably the top. Well, it's not saying that much, but definitely in the top 5 armies out there you could possibly take. They can go wrong, but they have answers to everything. So.
Yeah, they do have tools. That's what I was about to say. I agree.
If you guess the meta right, Empire's great. So.
Well, my thing is, in a meta that with 80 players, there's going to be a variety. Wouldn't an army like Empire just be a safe pick because they can deal with almost every other type of army?
Well, sometimes if you try to prepare for everything, you don't prepare well for anything. So that's the danger. I think if you feel like you have a real good handle on the meta and you can build a certain kind of list, I think they're very, very strong. I like them as a Swiss Army knife build, but where you just kind of come prepared for anything. But I don't think that there's some army lists I've seen that I wouldn't want to have a perfectly balanced Empire army going against it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess with that, we will get into the U.S. Masters. This will be the first matchup of the 8 we will be reviewing for this morning's show, or in Raph's time, this afternoon show. Starting at the top, we will be introducing David Otero. David comes from the club, the Denver Deuces. So he is from the mountain region, from the Mile High City. And the funny thing about David is David has the highest comp of the entire event, although he doesn't get credit for it because he's capped at 14. And his opponent for this is a longtime U.S. Masters participant. It's Ben Mitchell, Benny Rulebook. He is actually the national chair of the FAQ committee for the U.S. Masters, although he might be sitting the following years out with additional personal responsibility. That said, it looks like David, for his first time to the big dance, has a pretty steep order to fill in trying to knock out Ben. Once bitten, you want to get this one started?
Sure. By the way, Raph, when you do this, if you click the Present to Everyone button at the top, it'll keep the screen up there, even if Jerry makes noises like he tends to do.
Okay, I missed what you just said. What was that, sorry?
There's a button at the top that says, hey, you're sharing your screen.
Yeah.
And one option is to present it to everyone. And if you do that, it'll stay up there regardless if somebody else talks. So, heads up.
Okay.
So, David's list, so he's being led by Dwarf Lord, Shield Bearers, Shield. He's got an Axe, the Master Rune of Swiftness, the Rune of Might, Rune of Parry, the Runic Crown with 3 runes of Warding. Then he's got a Thane BSB with a pistol, a great weapon, the Master Rune of Grungni, and the Strolaz Rune. A couple Runesmiths. One has Master Rune of Passage, 2 runes of Spellbreaking, the Armor with a Rune of Stone. Then the other one has a Shield, the Talisman with the Rune of the Furnace and 2 runes of Spellbreaking, and the Rune of Stone Armor. So he's got 29 Longbeards with shields, 2 units of 10 warriors with great weapons, 3 gyrocopters, 2 of which have Vanguard. Let's see, 23 Ironbreakers, 5 Rangers, and 17 Iron Drakes, comping out at 17.5 when the cap's at 14. So, yeah, I love the thought behind a vanguarding dwarf list. My concern is that they still just don't have the mobility to do what they need to do. I think most opponents will be able to pick the fights and avoid the fights, and they don't really have the typical ranged threats that dwarfs do. So I think it's an uphill battle using this list, but kudos to him for bringing it. All right, I'll turn it over to you, Raf.
Well, I really wanted to love it, but sure. Should I comment on David's list, or I'll move over to Ben's? But on David's, I saw the comp score, and then I wanted to hate it because it's dwarfs, and I'm very biased when it comes to dwarfs. But actually, with the best will in the world, I think he's as the comp will indicate, bringing a breadstick to a gunfight. I think the complete lack of war machines is dangerous. Iron breakers over hammerers. When you consider how many comp points he has to play with, even to get within the 14, if he wanted to stay at the maximum level, it's lacking a bit of punch. However, it could work. There's units I don't really understand, like the two lots of 10 warriors, but he's got a couple of destroy scrolls in there, which is always annoying. Gyros, vanguarding. It's cool. I'm not sure it's necessarily the top list in the pack, but.
Well, if he's having, he has plenty of redirectors, and he looks like he's got a pretty hefty 2 units of fighting. I mean, his first round opponent isn't necessarily someone who's going to dodge around. Raph, if you want to go ahead and let's bring in Ben's list, and let's see how maybe David, this walking dwarf combat list, deals with what Ben Mitchell is bringing to the party.
Okay, so as said, Ben's bringing ogres, level 4 Slaughtermaster on Heavens, some magic resistance, Earthing Rod, and then we've got Bruiser, who is, sorry, I'm confused myself here, with the other tricks of Shard, Armor of Fortune, Great Weapon, who's the General, I quite like that. Another Bruiser, the BSB with a Standard of Discipline, a level 2 on Maw with a Scroll, 8 Iron Guts with the Dragonhide banner, 2 lots of 30 Noblars, 2 lots of 6 Lead Belchers with Champion and Musician, 2 Saber Tusks, and 6 Man-Eaters with, all of them have pistols, full command, poison attacks, and Swift Stride, and Banner of Swiftness. So, really, it's, I'll be completely biased again, it's a list I absolutely love. 2 things I love in Ogres are Heaven's Magic, and a bit of shooting to go with the combat. He's gone for the Bruiser General, which is an interesting option, and I quite like it. It makes you, I guess, have to be less safe with the level 4. My only thoughts on it really is I would rather have the Standard of Discipline on the Iron Guts, drop the Dragonhide banner, as cool as it is, and gear up the second Bruiser a bit more to make them more of a protected beat stick type situation, so you can go for the whole Slaughtermaster. Once the champion's dead, you can character front an Iron Gut unit, for example, or hang out in the Man-Eaters. It's an interesting toss-up. Man-Eaters on the Swift Stride over Sniper. It's not that much of a comp hit to go for Sniper, and it does scare people. I know it can be played around, but I guess in my view, whenever you force an opponent to play differently because you just have something that you don't even have to use, it's generally a plus, and it's, I would have expected to see that. On the other hand, this unit does hit very, very hard. It's easy to forget how good Man-Eaters actually are in combat with their Strength 5 poison attacks here. What is it, 4 or 5 attacks each, depending, and the like. The Noblars, they provide some steadfast and I guess steadfast breaking as well. I'm a bit worried about their speed. I guess they could provide a bit of a screen for things like Lead Belchers and hold stuff up. It's an interesting idea. It's one that I've played around with and never actually used. But and the dual Lead Belchers, and I guess in the world of elves that we inhabit, are just good. It's good to be able to just pump out 12d6 shots at toughness 3 elves running around and the like. They become exponentially better with Heaven's Magic, with the buffs that can bubble out as well. So, there's a real... I think it's a nice, solid list. I think 13.8 is a very high comp. I think Ogres in general are a bit behind the curve on power level as a book, so I'm not sure how necessarily they'll do overall, but I think it's a very, very good list. And it sounds like he knows what he's doing with it.
All right, so who do we have pulling this matchup down? It looks like you guys are both leaning towards Benny Rulebook. Can we get a confirmation on that, Raph?
Yeah, I think it has to go Ben's way on this one, I'm afraid.
How big?
That's a tough one. I think I would expect it to go a medium win, and nothing too crazy, because as you say, he does have a lot of chaff on the dwarf side. But I'd expect to see 14 plus, probably 15 maybe.
Yeah, I think this is about as good a matchup as the Dwarf Army can get, and I have Ben pulling in a 13-7. I think the Dwarf Army is going to really struggle this tournament. I think it's just a little soft.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is a mistake. Being from the mountain region, a lot of good players from around the country. I know the mountain region in particular had some drops late because a lot of their top players were unused to playing Sweet Comp. I mean, in reality, all the chairmen got together and we found something that worked for all 8 regions. But there's just a lot of different styles of play amongst these basically country-sized regions of 30 million people or more, and some regions just it's a learning curve, and Swedish isn't for the novice player. Although I think it is one of the better comp systems out there. If you don't understand the system, or maybe, and then again, maybe David's just bringing a softer list or a knife to the gunfight. But I have from our experience last year at Once Bitten, if you remember, there were more than a couple GT winners from around the country that went in there and basically got dunked on last year. So we might be seeing more of this from the newer regions. That said, let's go to the next matchup. The next matchup is a Lizardman list, which you are familiar with, Raph, being a Lizardman general, piloted by Joseph Urban. Joseph Urban is from the West Coast powerhouse Leadership 2, and he qualified. He wasn't Leadership 2 has a strong presence in the West Coast scene. Every year, it seems like half the West Coast regional participants happen to be from that club in Northern California and the Sacramento or San Francisco area. But Joseph, in particular, he qualified by getting 3rd place in the West Coast GT, and his opponent would be no other than the Jacob Brandon. Now, Jacob Brandon, this guy, he's grown leaps and bounds. Even heard he's lost his virginity. He's gotten into a situation where this guy he put down the Warhammer for about 5 minutes, got a job in a bar, and that seems to be happening with a lot of the younger players. We had the babyface assassin. He just dropped the day before the Madud list were due. I'm guessing he's going to be like the rest of us, disappear and then show up when you're married over and your life is done. You got kids, but this one, Brandon, he hasn't gotten there yet. Now, Jacob, I will give him props. He gets a lot of flack because he takes really hard lists, and he's arrogant as hell, but that's part of his charm. But he did win his seat at the Mid-Atlantic qualifier, and for all the criticism Once Bitten, I remember you happened to play him at the Mid-Atlantic qualifier. Do you care to go over that game and what kind of player is this guy?
I think Jacob's a good, solid player. I think we like to tease him. He certainly traditionally has brought over-the-top hard lists. I think lately he's you can see him developing as a player because he brings a little bit. They're tough lists, but there's a little more finesse required. I played him. It was a good game. I'd like to play the game again. with one die roll different, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, he's a very solid player.
I've blamed my dice before too.
Yeah. When we played my Breads versus Your Chaos Stores, I heard you blame the dice.
Oh, okay.
That's like crawling under tables.
Moving on. Moving on. Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I guess let's bring in Joseph Urban's list. Let's start with Raph. Go for it, man. What's this guy bringing?
Yeah, so he's rocking out with Aslan, shockingly enough. He's bringing Becalming, Focus of Mystery, Soulstone, Battle Standard, and, well, so that means he's on High Magic. And an Old Blood on foot, Sword of Might, Armor of Destiny, Dawnstone, and a Shield for that 1-up rerollable, the 4+ ward. In the hero slot, he's got a level 1 on Beast Skink Priest with a Dispel Scroll and a random Skink Chief with a Dragonbane Gem, Javelin, Light Armor, and Shield. 2 units of Skink Skirmishers with Javelins. 2 units of Saurus, 23 I believe, with full command, shields, and hand weapons. An 18-strong Temple Guard unit with full command. A unit of Chameleons. 2 Bastiladons, both with solar engines. 3 Pterodons, not with any flaming, no, and an Ancient Stegodon with sharpened horns. So, yeah. I love lizards. Whatever they might be doing, living on Mars and bubbles or whatever it is they're doing these days. But I really struggle to see the use of Saurus, and bringing 46 Saurus to the party I just don't really understand. But then I'm one of those few that are massively in love with the Skink cohort as a unit, because in size, they die to things that are good just as easily as elves, and might as well shoot and cost 5 points a model. That being said, they are decent sized blocks of toughness 4 troops. High Magic, Lawmaster does give you some combat buffs there. Obviously, you can swap stuff out. You can start playing around with Wild Form, for example, at which point they do actually become pretty tough. The lore of High Magic on the Aslan is always a tricky one, and I think the debate rages backwards and forwards on it. I think some people, and I'm going to like it a bit more now, but you have to have good Magic phases at the early turns of the game to be able to swap out for stuff that you're going to need in the mid-late game, because it's too late if it comes to turn 5 and you need to force through. You need to have done it all turns 1 and 2. The Old Blood is a very, very solid sort of bodyguard for the Slann. Or just to join one of the Saurus units, he is a real all-star. Very, very well protected. I normally don't have the 4+ ward on him. I think the 1-up rerollable is enough, but it's hard to argue with that 50-point investment there. Not sure. Yeah, anyway, the Lore of Beasts on the Priest, as I said, Wild Form is a useful spell. I think it's too dice heavy for a level 1, so I'm not that big a fan. But Skink Chief randomly in there, I get the impression he had 50-odd points spare. But which is fine. There are 2 common points. I did once take I think it was to the UK Masters a few years ago when we ran Swedish. I had a list of like 8 of them because they're just 2-point. They can act as last-minute redirectors. They're cheap, whatever. I think the Temple Guard are a bit small. In all honesty, I think if it comes across some of the lists with with the properly powerful combat characters or monsters or concentrated shooting, it doesn't actually have that much chaff. So, 18 Temple Guard. I'm not sure they provide that much to this list. Chameleons are fantastic, both for to mess around on people's deployments and also to Vanguard block. Bastiladons add magic missiles, obviously. I would probably have invested the points from the Bastiladons or the Steg into more Temple Guard, made it more of a solid combat list. But it is solid. I mean, it's Lizards. It's a 12.9 comp. It has 3. Well, what is it? It has sort of 3 tournament points worth of artillery targets in the wrong matchup. It doesn't have much shooting, but it's solid. I'll go with solid.
Yeah.
I don't know your thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, well, I certainly bow to your wisdom on Lizardmen. When I first saw the list, I'm thinking I just don't understand what you do with it, like what the strategy is using it. I like that there's just kind of three, I guess, medium-sized infantry blocks. I like the sight of, three monsters next to them, and you've got some skirmishers out front and pterodons flying around wreaking havoc, and then this chameleon skink. So, in its way, it's kind of balanced that way. I don't know. I guess I'm just skeptical of. It seems to me that if I were playing against it, it'd be fairly easy just to pick off units here and there where you could.
Yeah, I think it seems to lack, and he'll obviously have used it more and have a sense for it, but I think it seems to lack reach and sideways speed, sideways movement. Something that likes Dan Heelan keep going on about, which is because it's so key. You are talking about 3 medium-sized movement 4 infantry blocks that can't by themselves actually beat much. So, and if you extrapolate that the Masters meta will be similar-ish to what we see out there in non-Swede, which is lots of speed at the moment, lots of elves and warriors and the like, I think it could struggle.
All right. His opponent, once bitten. What's Mr. The Jacob Brandon bringing?
So he's got Tomb Kings being led by 2 High Leech, I guess, Leechai. One's level 4 Nehekara, one's level 4 War of Undeath. It's got a scroll of shielding on one and a scroll on the other. He's got a Tomb King with Dragon Helm, Great Weapon Iron Curse Icon, Tomb Herald BSB with Charm Shield MR3. It's got 2 units of 18 archers, 3 units of 5 horse archers, 16. Okay, so he has 16 more archers. He didn't put in the order he was supposed to, by the way. You should dock him for that.
Yeah. Give me 0 sports.
Yeah, so 40 Tomb Guard, 2 Screaming Skull Catapults, a Hyra Titan, and a Casket. I think this has a very strong magic phase and a very strong shooting phase, and it's got 1 unit that's going to have a very strong combat phase. I haven't seen him play it. I haven't seen it in action. To me, it seems like it could really swing one way or the other. Jerry, did you have any experience seeing him at
Yeah, as a overall Tomb King general myself. Jacob, he actually won Best General with a similar list of this at the Masters 50-man primer tournament, Colonial Carnage. What people, he is a fan of the double level 4. He has a list that's built to abuse Lore of Undeath with his magic superiority. So look for some late game heroics from some critters getting summoned to do some devastating things. I'm not going to go into the tactics he uses for it. That's for his opponents to find out. But I will say it's a bit of a gamble. The list is very strong if you get caught out by it. Now the question is, can Lizardmen get caught out by it with their leadership? It's a traditional early 8th edition army where you have the 3-block drop style, and that's what looks like Keith Urban's got, or Joseph Urban has. It looks like they can advance an echelon, but as opposed to the modern day 8th edition list that usually has 1 major fighting block and a bunch of characters and redirectors and stuff like that. That an army like this that's been designed can just kind of pick off, isolate the big unit and then pick off the small points or whatever. So I don't know, Raph, what do you think?
Yeah. So normally, when the big storm about Lore of Undeath kicked off, and everyone's going on about how it's going to break the internet, break the world, and make your wife leave you and all that stuff. I'm not actually that big a fan of the lore. However, in this situation, in this list, it's kind of perfect. The problem with it, there's only a couple of spells that really matter, right? So you can, because the stuff that really does anything, you need a lot of dice. He has an impressive magic phase with extra dice, extra casting. It's a nice list. Tomb Kings are always dangerous to take because things can go wrong. In this particular matchup, I think realistically, with the best will in the world, I think Jacob would have to do something wrong to lose it. I think the combat threats, for want of a better word, are rather limited within the Lizard list to push at the Tomb Kings. I think that hex rates are golden in this matchup, and he can bring some for free. So I would expect this to be okay. This is always assuming that for example, the Lizard list tries to run for it and get through the shooting phase and win in combat. That you'd have a medium win for the Tomb Kings here, based on the fact they're bringing additional free chaff, shooting. They have some redirecting ability. Really, the combat-wise, the two threats are from the Lizard side are the Old Blood and the Stegodon. Once one of those is gone, you're left with one thing, and really, if he forces through a couple of hex raids onto the table, it could change the game.
So basically, the Lizardmen just need to shut down Lore of Undeath.
Yeah, and not even that much of it. Really, I think you're talking. I can't remember the entire lore off the top of my head, but I think you're really talking. There's maybe 2 or 3 spells that will actually matter. But
if they manage to shut that down, how do you think the match goes? I mean, do you think Lizardmen just run over this list, or it still is an uphill struggle?
So you have a problem. The Tomb Guard are actually very scary for that list, apart from the Stegodon. So if you assume that the Stegodon is mostly neutered by the rest of the magic plus catapults, etc., coming through, and if you give the Tomb Kings that they manage to shut that down, then the Tomb Guard are a unit that the Lizards don't want to fight. They don't have the shooting to surround and kill it. You'd expect to lose the 20 skinks, or the 25 odd skinks he has in his list, and then you are talking about Saurus. They do kill skeletons, so that is something they can do. I'm a bit worried. At that point, I think it becomes a narrower game. I'd be surprised if it's a massive win anyway. I just have a feeling that you just need a couple of the spells to go off for the Tomb Kings to make a difference. And I think over 6 turns, well, I guess 5 turns that matter, I'd expect something to happen. Don't get me wrong, the Lizards could win it. If you rush it all across, you pick up the other points, you tag some monsters onto the Tomb Guard to hold them off for a bit, kill the rest of the army. That's a doable. It's doable. It is Tomb Kings after all. But so I'd expect a medium win if Lore of Undeath works, and a more drawish type results if it doesn't, because I have to come up with a prediction of some sort.
Okay. I tell you, I'm usually not a fan of 2 level 4s, but I think this is a great build for it because he gets extra dice and it's just easy to throw very few dice at each spell. Yeah, I have 2 kings at a 14-6.
So 13-7, Jacob's favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that, Tomb Kings with a prediction to win. Very nice. All right, next round, or next pairing, we have a Mid-Atlantic alumni, the Dragon Mage, Dragon Master, if you remember, from Table 1 of last year, Robert Brandon. He relocated to Tennessee from in between the 2 years of the Masters, and since he's been in Tennessee, in that startup region, the Southeast, he's been on a tear, winning something like 3 GTs. Easily, he qualified for the 2015 U.S. Masters, something incredible, by like March. It didn't take him very long at all, and now whether or not he's been resting on his laurels or not remains to be seen. But the Dragon Master, he did not. He's a big guy into obviously dragons. We all seen his list last year. Everything's converted with dragons, so we can go ahead and. What region of the High Elf Kingdom is the dragons, Raph? What is that? That's
Calador.
Calidor. Yeah, he's the Calidor Prince, right? His opponent, funny enough, is heavy into Krace. So this is kind of like an end times battle. It's none other than the former ETC Scottish, a former Scottish ETC player and the host of Chump Hammer out of Vancouver, Canada, Dale Johnson. Now I don't know if you guys participate at the same time on the UK scene. I mean, down in the UK, Ref.
Yeah, no, we were both active at the same time. We played once, I think, at one of the Tempests. Dale still hasn't gotten over my 3 turns of insane lucky magic phases that won me that game slightly.
Was it luck, or did you just smash him?
Well, I've got to be nice to him, right? He might be listening.
That's why you have to be mean. We're in America. Did you not read Twitter?
But he's in Canada. They're lovely and friendly, right? So you got to be nice. No, he was very active at the time, and he was pushing the High Elves before the High Elves became a thing that they are now. And he used to always be rocking his giant dragon that was a giant lion model, but he hasn't brought it.
Go ahead and get started with Once Bitten this time. What is the Dragon Master Robert Brandon bringing?
Well, I don't think he's bringing any dragons. Yeah, kind of weird. So he has being led by a prince and an archmage. The prince is just on a steed, so he's got the regular build. He does have a giant blade, dawnstone, other trickster's shard. He's got a level 4 Lore of Life. He's got a BSB mounted, a Shannon Shield, Ogre Blade, Luckstone. Level 2 with High Magic. 12 archers, 12 silver helms, a couple units of fast cav, 18 white lions, 24 Phoenix Guard with the Razor Standard, 2 bolt throwers, and a Flamespire Phoenix. I think it's kind of I don't know. I'm surprised that the comp is 11-7 because to me it seems softer than that, and I'm wondering if I'm just missing something. He's got a couple characters with some silver helms. He's got 2 medium-sized units of elite infantry. The Flamespire's Phoenix, in my limited experience, just sucks. So.
Well, I think the Flamespire in at least Swede, with the chance to come back. Now, usually you see like an anointed on it, but you don't in this instance. I think people use it because in some ways it doesn't give up its points. It can come back if it got early. But again, he doesn't have an anointed on it either. So.
Sure. Anyway, so yeah, that's. It's just kind of 2 units of infantry, 1 unit of cavalry. Not a whole lot of bells and whistles on it.
So I quite like it. For a couple of reasons. The Flamespire, which I understand is seen as rubbish, and Jerry, you should ask Furion about it when you have him on, about his blowing everyone's brains in Europe by taking a Flamespire to the ETC. But I think it has something that's actually quite interesting if you, predict the classic Swedish comp meta, which is a lot of, you start seeing MMU, sort of medium-sized units, nothing too big. And it can have an impact without being in combat, which I think is quite a big thing when you have other offensive things, like just the shooting battery. It's nothing extensive, but he has shooting. You don't have to commit into combat and therefore lock something down and protect it from the life magic and the rest of it. So it could just sort of just be a nuisance, for want of a better word, chipping away. And I think the fact that he's rocking a level 4 on life is something you can't ignore. It's a big Swedish comp hit, and it will get him points. I mean, it's very old-fashioned to say that Dwellers for the win and the like, but it is a big threat. It's nothing extraordinary, I don't think, but I think the Flamespire just being a nuisance, just hitting those units, picking stuff up, going in, when you have small, reducing the size of stuff before an engagement happens, might come back to life. You've got a beast mode combat high elf prince on steed, a life wizard who makes some tougher and kill stuff. The rest of it's just fine. I think it's as much as you could say. It's nothing crazy.
Okay.
That being said, it's not that different from if I move over to Dale's. Really, I was very disappointed he's not brought a dragon. As soon as I saw his name, I was like, he's got to bring a dragon, and he hasn't. So yeah, I'm just gonna sigh now. So he's rocking a prince, which is very similar, if not identical, to the previous one. Elven Steed, Dragon Armor, the Talisman of Preservation, other tricks of Shard, Ogre Blade, and a shield. He's brought a Lawmaster of Hoth with the Armor of Destiny, Sword of Antiheroes, Scroll of Shielding. He's got a BSB, also on a Steed, Dawnstone, Potion of Strength, and Charmed Shield to go with his mundane equipment. 12 Silver Helms, 2 lots of 13 Archers, 20 Phoenix Guard of the Razor Banner, 15 White Lions with full command, and the Banner of the World Dragon, a Great Eagle, 2 Bolt Throwers, and a Frostheart Phoenix.
Almost identical, like the evil cousin.
Yep. So the notable things here, I guess, is he's brought... Yeah, the Combat High Elf Prince is not as good as a Dreadlord. I'm not sure it was my favorite kit out on him either, but it's fine. Lawmaster, utility caster, which is great, and he's beefed him up with quite a lot of equipment. They don't always have that. He's decided to save a couple of Swedish points here by taking a Scroll of Shielding over the Spell Scroll, which is interesting. I think it's probably okay. I think most of his army isn't that vulnerable to magic until he gets Dwellers. But the core is a bit uneventful, really. It's not a massive Swedish points hit. You've taken the Banner of the World Dragon on those 15 White Lions, but I don't think it's actually that useful. Is my slight worry. I think the banner is a great item that High Elf players tend to think they need more than they do a lot of the time. And I just worry that the two sort of medium-ish combat units he has are a bit too small. 20 Phoenix Guard, yes, they have a 4+ ward, but there are only 20 of them. 15 White Lions. Is he getting that much utility from the Banner of the World Dragon? There's the miscast protection from his Lawmaster, but unless he's fighting something with magic attacks, it's not, it's not that great. The Frostheart, of course, is fantastic. And that's where a lot of his points has gone on the Swedish side. Overall, it's a solid sort of. It's got a bit of everything. It's, I guess, what you'd call it seems a bit of a Games Workshop army. If you went to a store and they were playing it, it has has some cavalry, infantry, some shooting, a couple of war machines, a monster. I don't think it's as good, actually, despite the better Phoenix as Robert Brandon's list. But both good players, and I don't think there's that much in it. So I think what will happen is probably a bit of a standoffish thing where it's a sort of game that Dwellers could win the game. But that's my gut feel. Anyway, I was looking at it, and they're quite similar, so it makes it quite hard to predict too much one way or the other. Without, obviously, I last played Dale 3-4 years ago now, and without knowing Robert, it's just going on the list. It's quite hard to make an exact call one way or the other. But I think the slightly bigger units, the life magic, the level 4 over the level 2, I think it gives Kalador a bit of an edge. Don't know about you, Chip?
Yeah, I'm thinking the exact same thing. I mean, it's hard to predict anything more than a minor win because the lists are almost identical. But I think Roberts edges Dale's out just a little bit. So I got 11-9, Robert Brandon.
And I guess you've got something similar, 11-9, 12-8 towards Robert. They're
I think something like that. Yeah.
All right. The next matchup features probably the winner of the event. A legend in his own hands, as my wife calls me. Jerry Parsley. I qualified with my trusty Chaos Dwarfs, and I'll be playing someone who tried to kill me when we went to Rock Wars, Mark Cox, who got in as the alternate player for the South region, longtime Skaven general, member of the infamous Hot Club, Hungover Heroes of Texas, and basically a good friend of mine. that had me running through the ghetto streets one September evening before a tournament. Yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead and turn it over. Raph, you've got my list, probably something you're not used to seeing, so go ahead and tear it apart.
Yeah, so I've got a note here from it says from the organizer, this list is perfect, and the general is handsome. I don't know where this email came from. It's not a real army though, Jerry, I have to say.
Hashtag not real army. Okay, that's enough.
So,
next list.
On to that. So you were rocking out with level 4 on Hashut, I think, right? It doesn't say on this tab. Yes.
Yeah.
Hashut. With Enchanted Shield, Talisman of Endurance, and a pistol, because he's, gangster. A BSB, who's just a BSB with a Dragon Helm, and 28 Infernal Guard with Blunderbusters. Now that I have never seen, actually. 28 Hobgoblins, sure. 2 Iron Demons, both of which are Hellbound. A Death Shrieker Rocket Battery. 2 lots of 3 Bull Centaurs with great weapons, and a Musician Banner. And the almighty Kadai Destroyer. So, other than my much publicized ignorance of all things Chaos Dwarves, a couple of things. I mean, obviously, Lore of Hashut's fantastic if it works, right? I mean, Swedish being Swedish, they don't actually cap any of that stuff, so there's that spell with 27 different effects that just ends Warhammer and no one knows what's happening. That's good. I can't remember what it's called. Ash Storm, right? The one thing I would like your opinion on when you get a sec, Jerry, is why no Taroks? Taroks are just amazing.
Yeah, they're hit heavily in comp. I was looking at Taroks, but I went with the dual small units of both Centaurs instead.
Fair enough.
Squeezing a destroyer into a moderate to high comp is painful, and the Sorcerer Prophet also gets raped with comp typically. I mean, Shadow is only second under Death for the most heavily comped lore in Swedish. Or Hashut is second only to Death, even more so than Shadow. Shadow used to be, if we remember.
Of course.
So between the linchpins of the level 4 and the Destroyer, basically I was on a budget, and the Chaos Dwarf artillery, as good as it is, really kicks you in the nads for comp, just because the Sorcerer Prophet is a 2 War Machine point tax.
It's a fair point. I mean, I think between the level 4 and the Kadai, you're talking almost 100 points of Swedish, which is a lot, obviously.
Yeah, that's 10 points.
Yeah. So I like Iron Demons. Obviously, they're much better at shooting than they are in combat. They've got this annoying tendency of being held up by pesky, well-armored cav heroes, and everyone gets a bit caught up with the fact they can only charge in a straight line. But that only matters for some armies. Sure, if you're a really fast, prancing elf, it's doable to just avoid those charge lanes and try not to get shot. But they do hit hard. They are hard to kill if you're not bringing like death magic and the like. So that's solid and a deterrent. And Bull Centaurs. Well, I guess they're only 6 Swedish points, right? Not that big a fan of Bull Centaurs, mainly because I've killed them with silly things before.
Yeah. Well, the Bull Centaurs are mainly there to clear the Iron Demons.
Yeah.
Because they get stuck by 5 Silver Helms. Bull Centaurs kill the Silver Helms. I mean, yeah, and with the Banner and Standard, if they charge a Frosty, they beat the Frosty outright. Because they have +2 high toughness, strength 6. So they're a utility piece.
Mm-hmm.
And basically they're guards to the Iron Demons, which basically just bank points. You get no half points. You have to take 8 wounds off them. And with the current meta being lots of heroes, lots of flying critters, basically lists like that, as opposed to early 8th with the giant blocks of troops. Mm-hmm. The Iron Demon's value's only gone up because the D3 wounds.
Yes.
I've played a couple Dark Elf players, and I played this list. Well, I had 4 grand tournaments last year, and then 1 just last week. And the number of times Dark Elf heroes try to slide down the flank with the Cloak of Twilight with their Lower Death or whatever, every time shot to death, and then they retreat. One shot. Because all you need is one to get through. They wound on Tuesday, three wounds, dead. And then every time the guy's like, "Fuck, I'm retreating." So it's okay, and it seems to be. It's a list I've played for a very long time, and it seems to be catching on now. Before the Chaos Dwarf list, the standard one was the old, like you said, the Torok build with the Lure of Death on the Bale Taurus, that old cup of tea. But in the small Chaos Dwarf circles, with the meta revolving around flying critters like dragons and demon princes and multiple rare demons, I guess the Iron Demons are getting more in vogue. So I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the blunderbusses are the ones where if you have enough of them, they start rerolling wounds and stuff, right?
Yeah. Anything over 20. The unit has to have 20 in it. That's why the two heroes have pistols.
Okay, fantastic.
So basically.
It's easy because it's been around and it's terrified people for years, and everyone thinks that a hero with a Dragonbane gem's enough to stop it. But it is important to point out just how good a Kadai Destroyer is. Obviously, if you face them a lot, But if you don't have that many Chaos Dwarfs in your area and you sort of play them once or twice a year, it is eye-opening every time when you refresh yourself on their stat line and exactly what they do. There's plenty of stories from even ETC games where a Kadai has single-handedly got a 20-0 win by taking off someone's army. So
like a Hellpit Abomination in the Skaven list.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's a very solid list. I have to say that because otherwise you'll write bad things.
Whoa, we lost connection. Where did Raph go? What was that? Whoa.
Enough about Chaos Dwarfs. Geez, we've been on this list for 20 minutes now.
All right.
Very quiet.
It's all about Jerry, so it's.
Yeah. Clearly, you've been following Twitter.
All right, so Mark Cox's Skaven list. He's has a warlord with the war litter. So I'm not that familiar with Skaven because I don't know what a war litter is. You might want to help me out there.
What's that? The warlord?
It says war litter.
Oh yes, so that's it's a bit like a palanquin for the Warriors of Chaos. It's a fighting platform. They get another 4 strength 4 attacks or something. It fills up the front rank. Tends to be what people use for. They get a better armor save, and you can hide a Grace here in the second rank.
Great, thank you for that. So there's that. The 4+4 Sword of Anti-Heroes are the Trickster Shard, Dragon Helm, and a shield. It's got a Gracier with the Foul Pendant, 2 Warlock Engineers, one with the Scroll, one with the Orb, a BSB with Shield, Obsidian Lodestone, Iron Curse Icon. 2 units of 49 Slaves, 34 Clan Rats, 28 Clan Rats, 2 Swarms, 7 Gutter Runners, 3 units of 5 Jezzails, 32 Plague Monks, and then 2 Doom Wheels. So just a few minutes ago, you guys said, the list you saw a couple years ago in 8th, and that's what I'm reminded of with this. Huge blocks of infantry pushing down the field, a couple Doom Wheels. Noticeably, he doesn't really have. I'm kind of a fan of Gutter Runners, but he doesn't have Warp Lightning Cannons and stuff like that. There's no Hell Pit. Kudos to him for that. He's just got these big units of rats running around everywhere.
He has spent 300 points on Jezzails.
Yeah.
That's all you have to say.
I think he's going to be really frustrated against Jerry's list. I think because Jerry, he can sit back with his wizard and his blunderbuss, just hide back there and let the Iron Demons shoot stuff, and if they have to, hold stuff up. The Kadai Destroyer is just going to have a field day with this. Yeah, I don't know. That's my take on it. Is that's just a real bad matchup for the Skaven list.
So I don't want. I'm getting an echo from this. I don't want to go upsetting Mr. Cox or anything, but I don't get it. It doesn't do enough. They are big units, but they're big units of slaves, right? There's no warp lightning cannons, which are the big threat. Doom wheels are great, but they can be managed by, well, just careful positioning. For example, you can protect, just keep something close, etc. You can play around it. Giselles are cool, and massive props for the guy taking them. And I took some notes earlier, and big exclamation mark, and almost a love heart for the fact that he's bringing them. But it's 300 points. That it's an abomination. Something else. Plague monks, once again, cool, but. And the rerolls for the Plague Banner is also cool, but really that's a lot of strength 3 attacks. Sure, if he gets into combat in the right situation, that makes a big difference. It's fair enough. But the rest of it, even the General and the Warlitter doesn't really do enough. Really, you could tag any unit that he's in with a powerful character, and he's kind of screwed because So as that sounds a bit defeatist, but I just don't. Blizzard's, Skaven are one of those armies like that, though. When I read a list, I quite often don't think there's enough to it, but I think he's just lacking the X factor that that warp lightning cannon for 90 odd points or whatever it is can just win a game. Or that Templar can center on a unit, can take off an entire ogre unit, for example, in a turn. It has those options. It can take a Kadai off from across the table turn 1.
Yeah, that is.
They're cheaper than a unit of 5 Giselles. So props for props for going this way, but we've got to put your hard hat on. I worry.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, playing Skaven, I have a good clubmate that plays Skaven, and the biggest concern are the warp lightning cannons, and he does have a Gracier, so a Dreaded 13th, he could kill the Blunderbuss unit, But the thing is, you need the warp lightning cannons to get that unit down to manageable levels before you start throwing 6 dice. So there is that. Plague monks are those poison, or what's the Plague Banner do?
Rerolls to wound.
Okay. So
and
that'd
hits,
be
maybe. So basically, they do a lot of hits and wounds.
okay.
Strength 3.
Okay. Yeah. It looks to me like the Giselles are there to maybe manage some of the fast cav armies or the heroes zipping around, maybe. And I don't know. I'd like to see more gutter runners too, because poison sling gutter runners. See, the Skaven list has so many tools that can annihilate, my Chaos Dwarf list. It's the Giselles are a curious choice, and if I was to field Giselles, I'd want to do it in a giant unit of like 10 or something. To lay down suppression fire.
I mean, taking a step back from my critique, there is a chance that he does well here. With some good play, Doom wheels are fantastic. Their rules are a bit bent. The 3 shots, D3 wounds each one. You can do hideous amounts of damage.
Well, he also has rattling guns, double rattling gun, and 3 units of Giselles could.
Rattling guns are cool.
Yeah, could cut down troops to manageable levels too, and they're magical. So if you fire enough times, stuff don't have to reroll.
So prediction-wise, I would expect it to be in your court, but I can see the scenarios where, maybe some drive-bys brings down the Kadai. Maybe he forces through a Dreaded 13th or the like. And it could happen, because it can always happen for Skaven. I think the likelihood has to be a Chaos Dwarf victory here. I think you can just be very, very aggressive with the Kadai, if you protect depending on where the positioning of the Doom wheels, because then it becomes, that's all you're actually that worried about, is the Doom wheels. So I'm going to keep predicting 14s one way or the other, so I'm going to predict a 14 for the Chaos Dwarfs.
Yeah, and I've got a 16 for the Chaos Dwarves.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's move to the next matchup. The next matchup has Anthony Greenman, who is a member of the Dimensional Cascade podcast from Seattle, Pacific Northwest, and he is rocking an Ogre Kingdom list, and he actually got matched up against Bobby Brown, whose wife is or daughter's in this hospital, Brian Brown. He was the first alternate for the West Coast and a member of Club Capri. and you guys remember him from last year. He brought the Warriors of Chaos, and it looks like he's bringing the Warriors of Chaos again. Chad, once bitten, would you like to get us started on the Anthony Greenman's Ogre list?
Sure. Yeah. So he's leading it with a Slaughtermaster, level 4 Heavens, great weapon, Iron Curse icon, and the Hex Scroll. I love the Hex Scroll. BSB. I actually used to take it, so I love it in principle. He's got he's got a Bruiser BSB with Iron Fist, heavy armor, stuff like that. Lookout Noblar, Dragon Helm, Luckstone, Warrior Bane, and Death Cheater. I don't know what the Death Cheater is. Help me out, Ralph.
No idea. I was hoping you knew.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Oh, cool. So
I think one of them. Okay, I might be completely making this up, but I think one of them you can have an ability where once per game someone has to re-roll to hit and win against you, or something like that. So there might be something along those lines.
okay.
But yeah, for a turn, like
Sure.
I might be lying.
So he's got a level 2 Butcher, Dispel Scroll, Ruby Ring. So then he's got the 9 Iron Guts, Standard of Discipline, Lookout Noblar, 4 units of 10 Noblars, all trappers, 2 units of 5 Lead Belchers, a Saber Tusk, 6 Man-Eaters. Let's see, 2 of them have great weapons, 4 have additional hand weapons. They have Swift Stride and Vanguard, and then 2 Iron Blasters. And all that just for a comp of 9.6. I don't know. I mean, it's basically you have. I was going to say one unit. You have the Iron Guts, and then of course you have the Man-Eaters, and those are 2 rock hard units. Iron Blasters are nasty. Noblars can just be a hassle sometimes, but the trappers. But yeah, I don't see it being over the top. I don't see it. I don't think it's as good as a 9.6. As a 9.6. I think it's to me it feels a little softer than that. But I may be missing some synergies with whatever he has planned. I actually like the two units of Lead Belchers. 4 or 5 of them. I think they lay down a pretty heavy field of fire. Yeah, but it's just can your 2 blocks get the matchups they need without just being avoided or overwhelmed by a bigger, better unit.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. And I have to send epic amounts of love Anthony's way on Valentine's Day for the Hex Scroll, which I absolutely love. Never have had an army where there's a spare arcane slot, but I think it's a 1 in 3 chance of potentially winning a game against level 4. That is, so it's sometimes worth the investment. I agree. I mean, I think we were saying at the beginning of the top end of the show that I think you really want to comp with about 12 plus, really, ideally. 9.6 is considerably lower than a lot. It is bringing all the toys, I guess. You have got 2 Iron Blasters, and they're hated for a reason. That's hard to argue. They will get him points across 6 games, so there is that. Lead Belchers, you've got the Nobblers to give them some time, small enough that they'll die or run. Buy some time. They don't, I guess, provide cover from a Lead Belcher. I haven't looked at the scale myself, but it's a solid list. Once again, he's running Heavens, which I think synergizes greatly with the shooting. I would have liked to see shooting Man-Eaters to go with it, just to be able to really stand off if you want to. Maybe the comp's too low for that to actually work. Solid list, 9.6 again. I mean, that's caught on the same point Chad made.
Well, I think the Noblars do block or add cover if you stick them right in front of the Lead Belcher, so maybe that's what he's doing.
Do they?
Yeah, I've played Owen enough. One of our club mates, multi-GT winner, and I mean, unless he's just got different Noblar models, they cover just over half. But I'm guessing that's what he's trying for, because I think otherwise the Noblars are too slow to be chaff. Maybe. Well, no, they're trappers, so those guys are the ones that scout, right?
No, what they do is they make you take dangerous terrain and recharge them, every model in the unit. So they can be very good against big units. You're killing a 6th unit, but they don't scout anymore. My worry with the Noblars is it's something that comes up when I was looking at some of the other lists. I'm not sure if I mentioned it yet or they come later, but that's 4 extra drops. I think with this list, going first is quite cool with it. When you got cannons, I'd be looking to minimize drops. I think in some matchups, in some situations, chaff is, for the sake of chaff, is a bit meh. So I'd like to go first, and the 2 Iron Blasters and either destroy their war machines or something along those lines. So 4 extra drops of Noblars makes me a bit uncomfortable.
Well, that's interesting. I saw just the opposite. I actually really like the drops because, again, he only really has 2 units, and so where he places them in relation to his opponent could be very, very important. So in some ways, those extra drops just really buy him some time. He's got tons of time. He has so many drops anyway.
Yes, true. Fair enough. Opinions vary, but I think, but it's a fair point. Yeah. What is he facing? He's Warriors, right?
Yep.
Mr. Brian. Well, Mr. Brown. So over here we have a Demon Prince, Buhis, who is, well, old school, or I guess the new edition. Level 4 Slaanesh Wizard, Dragonbane Gem, Charmed Shield, Allure of Slaanesh, which I don't actually know what that does, Scaly Skin, Chaos Familiar, Flying, Chaos Armor Suit, and the other Trickster Shard for the 1-up.
Isn't the lore the thing where you have to, you might have to charge him if you don't pass a leadership test or something like that?
I don't know if they have that anymore. I think it might be along the lines of minus, just harder to hit if you are in combat if you fail a leadership test, is what I'd guess it is, because I think it's quite a cheap.
Gotcha.
I don't know, though. So,
yeah, you're right. I think it's the old book.
Yeah, and then he's got his general is Chaos Lord, so he's gone double Lords. Marcus Lynch on a demonic steed with barding, great weapon, Trickster's Helm, Talisman of Preservation, and Icon. Obviously, Lord Zinch there. Exalted Hero BSB, really the pretty standard one with Marcus Zinch, demonic mound with barding, Talisman of Endurance, Dragon Helm, and Third Eye for the rerolling of 1s with a great weapon. Level 2 Sorcerer on metal with the Hex Scroll again.
No.
Fantastic to see.
Not the Hex Scroll. Look at it.
Oh, damn it. What is it? Frog Scroll.
Yeah. Even better. He went up there.
So the actual army itself is a unit 15 Marauder Cav, Mark of Zinch with flails, javelins, shields, full command. 2 other units of Marauder Cav who are Slaanesh, javelins, shields, standards, musicians. 2 Warhounds, 1 with poison, because why not? And both of them are vanguarding. In a special slot, he has 2 Gore Beast Chariots, Mark of Nurgle, and 6 Trolls, and that is his army for the 9.6 comp. Low comp score, eh? So, there's a couple of things here. I mean, obviously, Frog Scrolls, once again, awesome. Secondly, Slaanesh magic is fantastic, and it's potentially game-winning in most games. With the few Empire players you said are in this field, it increases my appreciation of Demon Princes, just assuming the cannon count therefore goes down. So that is a real beast. He's probably the best combat Demon Prince there is. The armor piercing in the modern meta is a big deal. So he's fantastic. I'm a bit less sure about the Chaos Lord being on a demonic mount instead of a disc. It's a minor comp differential. I looked it up earlier. I would have gone for a disc board myself. I know what he's doing. This way, well, you can hide from ballistic skill shooting in the Zinch-marked Marauder Cav unit, but I think you can play around with that, where you vanguard the Marauder Cav forward, move into them turn 1 if that's what you're worried about, and then move out. Unlike the hero, the Chaos Lord doesn't actually get much of a benefit from being on Demonic Steed. You don't get the extra wound for 50 odd points, whatever it is, and that extra flying threat would have been a big deal. You can't argue with the BSB, standard. Can't really argue with metal magic. Can't argue with. You can argue with a frog scroll, but it's great anyway. The core, yeah. As I said, it's a good bunker for ballistic skill shooting if the BSB and Lord want to gallop up. It's not going to give them any protection against cannons, but they're relying on their ward saves at that point anyway. It's fine. 95 points spent on Warhounds. I'm not a fan. I don't know what the comp hit for another unit of Marauder Cav if you want to keep sort of these fast throwaway chaff core. Nurgle, Gorbeast Chariots are obviously very tough. Goes without saying. I'm not that big a fan personally compared to what else you can get, but I see they're quite low comp scores really, so I see the point. And Trolls are Trolls. It seems to me a bit of an army it's a 3-model army with stuff around it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely.
And as a result, I'm surprised that it's a 9.6.
So who do we got winning this one?
I'm going to give it to the Ogres, but on a 12A. I think that it's just hard to hide from Iron Blasters. And, I mean, you know, the Warriors Chaos list has some problems they can give to the Ogre Kingdoms, no doubt about it. But I think they can just get ahead on points to the Iron Blasters and then force them to play. The Ogre Kingdom can force Warriors Chaos to kind of play their own game. Now, of course, the Warriors can fly around and have the mobility, but then again, you've got 10 Love Belchers on there protecting areas of the board. So I think it'd be an interesting one to watch, but I'm going to give it to the Ogres.
Okay, it's a tough one. Just because I've agreed every other time, I'll just disagree this time and give it to the Warriors. I think it's very tight. Ogres could easily win it. I think combination of Heaven's Magic and Cannons means the Demon Prince should die. I don't know what the terrain's like actually at the tables, but it's hard to hide from. Even the Zinch ward saves, do give out. And then you're left with the rest of the army, where I think the Ogre army is probably better. But I'm going to trust in that Demon Prince going on a wrecking machine and just give it to the Ogres. It just feels like a pity vote to the Warriors here, but and it's not necessarily the case because those 3 models I said that the army is based around a proper hardcore.
Well, Raph, to help out, the hills and the buildings and impassable all block line of sight.
I'll go with the Warriors then. I think you can make it across.
Yeah.
Why not?
All right, split vote there. Let's get to the next round.
No, you're supposed to do a tiebreaker.
The tiebreaker. I will go with the Ogres. I've seen that style Ogre list in play before. And at the end of the day, the great thing about the Iron Demons, and that's probably where he's getting annihilated for comp, is, I mean, sure, you have a pretty big, hefty comp hit, but if they take out something big turn 1, all of a sudden, you've got a really hard Ogre list, and Iron Blasters are not easy to take out like traditional artillery. So counter battery fire doesn't work. Although Warriors doesn't have it in this matchup, it's I think Iron Demons could be, or Iron Blasters could be what decides this game. I mean, his fast cav won't be able to stop him.
Okay.
Okay. All right. The next matchup features the second overall finisher, runner-up to the national champion from last year. He was formerly #1 ranked player in the Northeast and formerly an ETC player. I don't know if he's on the team again this year. Matthew Cassidy. He is rocking Dwarves, and he's fresh off a TempleCon victory last weekend, winning with this Dwarf list in another Masters Primer. His opponent is West Coast All-Star, Cubo. Q actually boycotted the Masters last year for reasons unknown. I don't know if he actually boycotted or he just couldn't make it, but I seem to remember the former. He did, however, come to Grail Quest, played in the venue of the Masters, had a great time, saw the type of community we are. So he's bringing his Bretts out. Now, I'm more familiar with Cube on his Slaanesh Demon side, so I'm not too familiar with his ability with the Bretts, but he certainly has an uphill struggle with one of the best players in the country, fielding your favorite race, Raph, the Dwarves. Raph, do you want to go ahead and get into the Dwarf list from Matt?
Well, not really, no. But okay.
Okay. Next person. Fair enough.
So,
Sorry.
two caveats. As mentioned earlier, I obviously hate dwarfs, and I made a vow to never badmouth any Northeast players because they scare me. But
So now
actually, no, actually, it's an interesting list. So well, let's go through. We've got 3 runesmiths. First one with Dispel Scroll, Rune of Stone. Okay, they all have the Dispel Scroll. How about that? They all have Rune of Stone. One of them has 2 plus versus Flaming Rune, and the other one has Rune of Luck and a Flaming Weapon. BSB, Master Rune of Grungi, a Great Weapon, and a Pistol. 3 units of Quarrelers, or 13s each, full command. On 2 of them, Great Weapons on all of them, and then we have the big hitting unit, 27 Hammerers. I don't know what the Groth One-Eye banner actually does. Full command, and I think it's a Flaming Weapon on the champion. It's what's popping off the side here. Yeah, with a Rune of Speed, which is a nice little trick. A cannon, 2 gyros, and 2 grudge throwers. The cannon obviously has the forging. Grudges are both accuracy, forging. One of them's flaming. And my favourite unit in the Dwarf book, Iron Drakes, unit 15, with a troll hammer torpedo launcher and full command. So there's a couple of things here. I actually think it's a very good list. I think a lot of Dwarf players take, and I'm not just saying that because I'm scared, but I think a lot of Dwarf players waste a lot of points on Lord choices when they don't always need to take them. I think, I'm not sure why 3 runesmiths are required, but there'll be nuances to it I don't fully understand. Interesting, they've gone for 3 Dispel Scrolls over any Destroy Scrolls. I appreciate it's a point and everything else thing. It's really a gun-based army with a couple of very fast, I say chaff, but Jaras are also very good at annoyingly killing stuff, and one hell of a good combat unit. In the modern Warhammer game, few units actually fight better than hammers. I think we've gone past the stage of 8th edition where we had massive combats units that were all amazing. Now we see smaller units and characters that don't necessarily want a lot of armor-piercing, strength 6 or 7 attacks. And he's got 3 artillery pieces, which is the big thing, and a comp score of 13.2, I think, which is fantastic. Iron Drakes, I rate. I've never actually seen them on the table in significant size, but I think they really, that goes yet another shooting base, and they're quite defensive as well. So it's a very solid list. I can see you mentioned he's been doing well. I can see why. It's got everything. The only thing I don't really understand is can't actually remember what a troll hammer torpedo does, but why the 3rd runesmith instead of messing stuff around? But I guess it's the 3rd scroll. Solid list. It's a gun line. It's a dwarf army.
It's a gun line. All right. One spit.
Yeah, let me just jump into the Bretts and then see how it compares with the dwarf army. I think inherently dwarfs are just a bad matchup for Bretts. Of course, I think I'm biased. I think most armies are a bad matchup for Bretts. At least I find myself feeling that way. So the Bretts they have a Prophetess level 4 Heavens on a Pegasus with the Hex Scroll. Here we go. Talisman of Preservation. And it says here the General, but I think the Lord has to be the General, right? Oh, no, he's Virtue of Ideal. So they have a Lord character, Questing Vow on a Pegasus, Enchanted Shield, Dragonbane Gem, Virtue of the Ideal, Gauntlet of the Duel, and an Ogre Blade.
What do they do?
I'm sorry?
What do they do?
What do those things do? So, Virtue of the Ideal gives them slightly better stats, but any Brett unit within a certain distance suffers -1 leadership.
Right.
So he's like a big dick. Nobody likes him. He's like the jock of the high school. It's a good sport, but good athlete, but just a real jerk. Gauntlet of the Duel means that if he issues a challenge, somebody has to accept. You cannot refuse it. So,
cool.
And then Questing Vow is you get to reroll his panics. So, I haven't taken Questing Vow in a couple years. Is it reroll fear, terror, and panic, and all that stuff?
I think it's immune to panic, isn't it?
Certainly not immune.
Oh, isn't it? Okay.
You're rerolling something like that. I don't know. Anyways, who's got a BSB on a peg? 3 peg characters. This one has the Worm Lance and the Great Helm. Let's see, 2 damsels, both level 1, sporting beast, both mounted, one with the silver mirror, one with the scroll and the ruby ring. Silver mirror is a scroll plus it does a d6 hit, or a strength 6 hit. 2 units of knights, 11 each. One has a gleaming pennant, one has a scarecrow banner. 2 units of 15 bowmen. A unit of 6 peg knights. 5 fast cav, and then 2 tray buckets. What an interesting list. You've got all these characters flying around on pegs. Yeah, I think the Dwarf Army absolutely rips this one to shreds. I do. I mean, 2 trebuchets can really go to work on those hammers. So that's kind of a nice counter. I mean, because if the hammers and any knights get together, that's just going to be really bad. Characters on the peg knights can probably avoid a lot of stuff, but with all that shooting, I mean, it's tough to stay out of the arc of death that Matt Cassidy is bringing to this game. So I don't know. I think it's a real bad matchup for the Bretts. But if the Brett player, which I'm sure he does, has a strategy for how he would do it, I think that'd be an interesting game to watch.
Okay. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think the Brett player's got no chance. I love the Brett list there in concept. There's a lot of pegs. You mentioned that the line of sight stuff is big. I think it's inexcusable to not take a heroic killing blow, whatever the comp hit would be, because it just gets in people's heads, which I'm a big believer in. But to be honest, I think there's just too much shooting to get through. And then when you get there, I don't think there's anything in this list that comes close to upsetting or even annoying the hammer units. I'd be tempted if I was the Brett player to try to go into the opposite corner and take a 9 from this, because you will eventually lose something to the shooting. Interesting with a big unit of pegs instead of like 2 3s. I guess it gives him a lookout, sir, until one of them dies if there's a peg character nearby. With Heaven's Magic, they can be quite good, I guess, but I think it lacks. This is all massively caveated, of course. If you get a good turn of Trebs smashing into the hammer unit, and you don't take too much damage in the first couple of turns, you can get in, and it can be a massive result the other way. It's a problem when you're facing the likes of a shooting line. You've got to make that decision before the game starts about whether you're going to try it or whether you're going to try to just play safe.
All right. Well, we'll go. I guess drawish result from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, because it would be suicide to go under the guns of the Navarone.
Doesn't stop people trying, right? So.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah.
Okay, speeding along, because we're running a little late, so let's go into the 7th matchup of this episode. We are looking at a former Adepticon winner, and he qualified by winning TempleCon last year, and all-around great guy, Rob Kopp from the Northeast. He is rocking another unusual list like he tends to bring. He won Adepticon a couple years back, infamously, with the Flying Monster list back when it was 25% characters in True Line of Sight, so it was really a big deal back then. And his opponent, I don't know too much about him. He's from the Midwest. His name is Jeremy Schweitzer? Can't pronounce it. He, from my understanding, got 2nd overall in one of your favorite tournaments, Buckeye Battles, Once Bitten. And this is typically a huge event. It was Sweet Comp-esque. What I mean by that is they used the Sweet Comp to determine comp, but they did something else with the comp points. I think you were only allowed to play with your bracket, and you didn't get any bonus points.
Yeah, that's how they do it there. You get no benefit from it except your first day that determines your matchups. You just play within your comp bracket, and it's basically no comp.
Yeah. So Jeremy to walk out with the top finish there obviously knows his stuff, but he's also playing someone who has big game experience, winning probably the biggest event in North America with the Adepticon. Once bitten, let's go ahead into Rob's list and let's take it from there.
Yep. So I have to admit, I love this list. I love it. So he's got a Dreadlord, great weapon, heavy armor, Sea Dragon Cloak. He's got the Talisman of Preservation, Dragon Helm, Trickster Shard, and he's on a black dragon. Boom. Then he's got 2 Masters, both on Manticores. So the first one's got the heavy armor, Sea Dragon Cloak, Charmed Shield, Dawnstone, Ironheart Skin, and Sword of Might. Second one has Cloak of Twilight, Lance, heavy armor, Sea Dragon Cloak, Shield, Ironheart Skin. The Ironheart Skin is on the Manticore, I would assume. The Sorceress, although I don't know what it is, this is 2 Sorceresses, one with Heavens, so it's a level 2 Scroll of Shielding, the other with Metal, level 2 Scroll, Iron Curse Icon, 2 units of 6 Fast Cav with repeaters and shields, 2 units of 10 crossbows, both with shields, one with flaming, 5 Harpies, 2 Bolt Throwers, 5 Shades, and then 5 Doomfire Warlocks. Comp is a 10.6. I tell you, I like it because it's got the extreme mobility with these characters, and there's enough of them that it's kind of like a target-rich environment. You can try to focus if you've brought enough shooting. You can focus on the Dreadlord, and that's certainly a risk. He'll be hiding them and all that kind of stuff. But the Dreadlord, 2 Masters with Manticores, I like that he's just kind of overwhelming it. And he's still no slouch with anti-chaff, with his own chaff, with a little bit of shooting. I think this is a fun. It could be a very effective list. Right?
Love it. It's fantastic. You've summed up most of the reasons. The only thing I would change, if I was going to change anything, is I'd probably have another unit of Shades instead of Harpies. Don't know the Swedish points hit for having a second unit of Shades, so that's another thing. But it's fantastic. I think when you go monsters, go big or go home. I think the line of sight helps. I think everyone knows that Manticores aren't all that in theory, but actually, you pick the targets right. You got 2 of them. Got a dragon. You got magic that answers specific issues there. Heavens is always useful, and you get a decentish chance of getting something like Comet or one of the buffs. Metal just to do its thing. It's a beautiful list. It's fast. It's fun. I've got a man crush.
All right. Well, what's he playing there, Raph?
Yeah. So demons, all over the place, everywhere in the UK. Over here we have a Bloodthirster, something that isn't seen everywhere, with a lesser gift, followed by a Demon Prince of Slaanesh, who is a level 4 on Slaanesh, flies, has Chaos Armor, and a greater gift. No heroes, core of 2 lots of pink horrors, one with a gleaming pendant, 23 Plague Bearers with Banner of Swiftness, full command, 3 Blood Crushers, 6 Flamers, 3 Beasts, and a Skull Cannon. Nice and short list. It's one that, after reading it this morning, I've grown to like more and more, actually, especially with the confirmation on the line of sight thing. I mean, Lore of Slaanesh is a fantastic lore. You rarely see it with demons because that involves, either if you're not running a Greater Demon of Slaanesh, you have to run a Demon Prince, which you don't normally see. But with the new laws, it's an option. Bloodthirster, it's not subtle, right? But the lesser gift is enough points to give you ASF. I'm not sure exactly what he's aiming for with the greater gift on Demon Prince. I'd be hiding that baby all day because they're quite fragile. But it's a solid list. I mean, Blood Crushers, they're good on the Swedish, I guess. They're only 8 com points. It does its thing, I think. For a 10.9 comp score, it definitely has some threat, and the magic is quite useful and hard to predict how it's going to impact things. If you get the right spells and you have 2 spells that affect movement, plus the leadership bombs, etc., it can be a big deal. He hasn't made that many concessions to be going for this kind of thing. He's still got Beasts of Nurgle. He's got some chaff in there. He's got some shooting. It's a nice solid list, really. It's quite new. It's something I guess that's only existed in the scene since the Nagash book changed all the percentages on characters. So I'd be interested in your thoughts, Jeff.
It's funny because I think it reminds me of the Dark Elf list that Rob is bringing. It's kind of, instead of 3 big nasties moving around, it's got 2, but it's got decent range threat. This one has a little more stuff for combat. I think it's, you hide the characters, you bring them out when you need them. They're nasty when they hit. It's certainly less mobile than the other one, but I don't know. I want to see all these games. I want to see this play out. Because I think I can tell you my prediction's 11-9. I just don't know who has the 11.
Yeah, I think it's probably quite fair. I think I'm just going to have to copy you there. Normally I'd go for Dark Elves, but there's a bit more tough gristle in the Demon army than in the Dark Elf one. So if you do get to it, a Manticore gets into Beasts of Nurgle doesn't actually mean they blow through them straight away, if at all. It's that kind of situation, and having a cannon always helps. So I'm going to go 11-9 for the Demons because we don't know him very well apparently, and he's probably bloodthirsty. So there's that.
I'm going to go 11-9 with the Elves just to be contrary.
All right. Well, good. Well, I guess we are getting to the end of episode 2. Let's rock into the final matchup of this episode. Both these lists are pretty fun, and both the players are from 2 of the newer regions. The first one is Ricky Fisher from the Dimensional Cascade podcast. He was the highest unranked player from their region, so I'm guessing he was the highest unranked player after one of their events. So I'm guessing he was I think the way the method they select them is if you win one of their big tournaments, and then they have a ranking system for the remaining X amount of slots. And I think Ricky Fisher qualified that way, and he has, for lack of a better term, a Night Goblin army. And he will be playing James Valdez, who is in the Flying Monkeys Club. Now, Ricky is all the way in Seattle. James, the great thing about this event is it brings people from across the country. James qualified at the Bug Eater GT in Nebraska. So there's a good 1,500-mile difference. And James also has an unusual list. I guess you could call it a Khorne Demon list. Now, is this a situation where we're seeing 2 of the newer regions with less experience in Swede? Maybe they're bringing the fluff. I don't know. Wrath, starting with you, what's going on with the Night Goblins?
Man, you made me read this one out. Okay, so
someone's going to get stuck with it.
He has everyone but Skarsnik, which is a pity. So we've got no less than 4 Night Goblin war bosses. First one has a great weapon, Armor of Civet Steel and Talisman of Preservation. Then the other one's with a Wizarding Hat. We've got one on a Great Cave Squig for some reason with Armor of Destiny. And we've got another one on a Magic Carpet, because why not, with a Dragonbane Gem and some MR on his shield. I think it is, whatever. Shield of Plotos is the armor save against shooting, isn't it? And causes fear. Level 4, obviously on Little War, a single hero who's the BSB with a standard of discipline to bring this army to an epic leadership of 7, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
He's bringing the heat.
We've got 3 units of Night Goblins. One's 47, one's 45 for the big ones, both with Fanatics. And I'm going to just guess they've got nets. Yeah, nets, and a slightly smaller one of 23 with no upgrades but bows. 8 trolls, 35 Night Goblin Squig Herd. So it's 21 Cape Squigs, 14 handlers. 2 lots of those. So that's a total of 42 squigs. I'd like to see that on the table. Gorgeous. 2 Doom Divers and 2 Mangler squigs. Yes, so Chaos, I think, is the... I love it. I mean, there's a thing I always say, look, you either go to the event to win, you take the filthiest thing you could possibly take, or you take something cool. You obviously have the models for this, and do as well as you can, have some fun, drink some beers. He's not going to win the event with this list, with the best of love. I love the podcast and everything. 12.7 comp's good. We saw something almost similar in the UK a bit last year, which was one of the players here started packing Goblin Heroes into Night Goblin Heroes into units because they are basically slightly better Iron Guts for cheaper, or something along those lines. A similar cost, and you have to do all the hit allocation. Actually, they works out quite good. It's not quite gone this way because they're all kind of crazy and tooled up and flying carpets and stuff. But it's a cool list.
Flying carpets, giant cave squigs, the whole lot.
If he doesn't have to fight, it's an interesting one because if Doom Divers are great against things like fast cav elves, squigs are great at fighting things that are like elven infantry and the like. There's a lot of strength 5 attacks coming back. With the right matchups, etc. It depends. It's a daunting list probably to run at. If you want, that's what you want to do. It's I've got to have faith in it. So it's fantastic. That's all I'm going to say. It's I can't quite believe it.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. It looks like just a real fun list. I've seen those big groups of squigs just rock people's worlds. You take them for granted a little bit.
Oh, I've lost a Vampire Lord and a bust to them before. It is, with a bit of luck, and that's a lot of strength 5.
Yeah, and 2 Doom Divers are nothing to sneeze at. They're pretty accurate. They can wreck some worlds. Mangler squigs, if you don't have the tools for them, can be a hassle. But my concern is, you've got a really low leadership army, and you're kind of just waiting there for people to come to you, and you're hoping that those cave squigs and mangler squigs can kind of carry the weight of killing stuff. And he's got trolls too, of course. But so speaking of killing stuff, we have a James's Demons list: 2 Bloodthirsters, one with an exalted gift and a lesser gift, the other one with a greater gift and 2 lesser gifts, and then 25 Bloodletters with Gleaming Pennant and 15 Bloodletters. And then 8 Fleshhounds ambushing, 3 units of Chaos Furies, 5 each, a Soul Grinder, and a Skull Cannon. So it's not really subtle. You have 2 Bloodthirsters. You have 2 Bloodthirsters that can just wreck face. The Bloodletters, and these aren't huge units of them or anything. So I'll give him that. He's just kind of move up. But I think he's got just the right tools for this Goblin army. He can use those Furies. 3 units of Furies is fantastic for those. For the Mangler squigs, for drawing out fanatics. All you have to do is start killing stuff and forcing panic tests, and you've got the game. So
I for one think it's going to be awesome game to watch just because the 2 highly themed armies. And just the Night Goblins going on to take on like the greater demons of Khorne. It's going to be awesome.
Who would have thought that Warhammer got to the point where I got really excited in a positive way at seeing 2 Bloodthirsters in a list? But it's just fantastic fun, isn't it? They're just different wise. Interestingly, some of the things that really help it in this matchup are things that I wouldn't have in the list. Tying into the thing we mentioned before about our differences on chaff units versus additional chance of going first. I normally, if I didn't know I was playing this game, I'd look to drop some Furies and bring some more Fleshhounds into the party, or something like that. That you'd have more scouting not happening. Get on the front foot. But I think in this turn. In this game, he's got all the answers, be it the chaff, be it sitting 21 inches away and declaring maximum range charges on leadership 7, like Goblin units, whatever it is. It'll be epic to look at. You should tweet some pictures, Joe, if you have a chance.
Yeah. Well, I'll be playing, so probably once Bitten will have to do it because he's going to get eliminated.
Yeah, true enough. True enough.
Boom. All right, so who do we got pulling this one down, guys?
I've got the Demons 15-5, and I might go higher than that. I'll stick with 15-5.
I've got the Demons at 20.
Oh.
Boom. Boom. The only war machines he has are the Doom Divers, and they're not enough against Soul Grinders and Bloodthirsters. And, yeah, he's just got no answer. I mean, it's cool. It's fantastic. But he should smash this game.
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes episode 2. I'd like to give a heartfelt thanks to Raph for coming aboard. Just some final thoughts on the list, guys. Okay, of all of these armies, which army is your favorite? We'll do something different this time. And let's start with you, Once Bitten.
You can't start with me because I've got to go review them, look at them again real quick just to see.
Okay, let's go to Raph.
Well, okay, there's so many definitions of favorite, right? So the Night Goblin list is fantastic, as is the one it's facing. On a more broader level, I like a couple of the Ogre lists that we've seen. That combination of Lead Belchers and Heaven's Magic and stuff, I think that's cool. So I would probably, competitively, I'm not saying it's the best list there, but I'd say one of the Ogres, probably. But for the fun side of things, Night Goblins, come on.
I agree.
I'm looking, you know what? The one that I'm most interested in seeing play is Jacob Brandon's Tomb Kings list. I think that could cause problems. I think that Matt Cassidy's Dwarfs is a real competitive. I think that's going to cause problems for a lot of people.
Yeah, unless people just corner hammer, take it out of the tournament.
Maybe.
The thing is, if you do well enough early on, people don't want to do that, right? Because who wants to take themselves out of the running by, in a highly competitive field, taking a 10, for example. I think the Tomb King list could be a dark horse for the event. Not to win, but to do very well.
Cool. Well, any final thoughts? Raph, any final thoughts? How's the U.S. Masters compared to the U.K. Masters, since you're a multi-UK Master player? I know that we hold our Masters as kind of like a premier event, whereas the UK one is more kind of like relaxed, almost. There's some love for Ben Curry's rules pack this year. Any differences or any thoughts on that?
I guess without saying that the US Masters is far more fun as a spectator than the whole year build-up. Without touching on that too much, it's great fun from a trolling appreciation society point of view. It's a very different kind of event, obviously, to the UK one. What is it? 78 players you're going to have this year. That's massive, and it requires all the differences we get. Whereas ours, it's part of it is a reward for the 16 or whoever can make it. Well done. The compact is always different. It's a very different kind of thing. People do take it seriously, but there's a lot more people who don't as well. So, and in the field, you really notice it. I mean, everyone tries hard, but you see some stupid lists there for the laugh of it. The organisation involved, and the lists are actually, I think, it might be my brain's playing up, but I think that's more solid this year from this batch than the ones I saw last year. I think you need to play some Swedish to understand the little things that matter. The unit sizes that matter. That using something instead of something else, broadening your collection, because it's a comp system that really benefits people that have been playing High Elves for long enough that they own every unit. So the trash talk is second to none. The lists look good. The compact is, it's uncommon to Warhammer when you get on the table pretty much, apart from the line of sight, which is, I approve of. So I'm very excited to follow the progress of things.
Well, I appreciate it. A lot of people look forward to it every year. I mean, despite the massive weight that's on a lot of the organizers' shoulders and the chairman. They're trying to put out something that everyone can agree with. But we're almost there, and again, you were our very first guest last year, and I appreciate you coming back this year. Would you like to give a shout out one more time and tell everyone where they can find your blog?
No, that's not very British. Self-promote.
Clearly, you haven't been listening to podcasts.
I would give the address out again, Jay, but that makes me feel guilty about not writing enough posts to go up on there. So.
Well, that just encourages you. Now you have to. I'm trying to help you. I'm too good to you, Raph.
You are, Jay. You're too nice.
Yeah.
See, it's always about Jerry. Jesus.
It is. Can you imagine? That's what I've heard. Because I like torture. Yeah. I'm already married, so why not do it twice? Fine. Screw your blog. Any closing thoughts?
No, thank you very much for having me on, guys. Both of you. Best of luck for the event, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the great Warhammer brains you have lined up have to say about the rest of the lists. And yeah, congratulations on getting it this far. Right, almost over for another year.
Yeah, almost. Fingers crossed.
Hey, Raph, it was great like last year, man. I really appreciate you coming on and doing this with us.
Yeah, pleasure's mine. Pleasure's mine.
All right, well, I guess that closes it up for the audience. In approximately 55 minutes, we will be taking the time machine to our next guest, Jeffrey Kent from Kiwi Hammer, where it will be 6 a.m. his time. So that's at 12 noon Eastern Standard. All of you tune in. We'll be doing 8 more matchups for round 1 of the 2015 U.S. Masters. I'm Jerry P. Once Bitten on Once Bitten's channel, and Raph Harpinson, I guess, signing off.
Yep. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in just a few.
Cheers.